Welcome to List Off. I'm Ozzy.
And I'm Nat, and this week Ozzy and I will be tackling our top 5 fictional vehicles.
With a stipulation, right?
Oh yeah, we did have a stipulation where we, at an early point, we had to discount any spaceships or vehicles from the Star Wars movies for fear that they might take over. But what it does mean is it also gives us a little in that we could probably do that again at some point.
I could do that today. I could go straight into it, back to back to back. I can do that one in my sleep. But it's not fair, really, because they've got too many.
We've got too many little good ones, little smart ones.
Little good ones,
so
big ones. This was suggested by Herc, who was on our show a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Probably a few. Sorry for the downtime, and we hadn't had a show, but I had to put this ring on my finger, which took up some of the time. But you know, it's done now, so I don't know, just leave it there now for forever. Probably longer than my life. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, it's a bit grim.
Yeah.
Who's gonna kick us off with the? What did you think of making the list first of all?
I thought it was a strong idea. Like when it came up, I went, "That is a good one." Actually, fictional vehicles. It felt solid, and it felt like I could probably have. Usually, when I have 2 straight away, that's a good sign. But I would say, in general, I'm not a big vehicles person. I'm not like a car head, car nut.
No.
Or I'm not into like bikes or cars or vehicles of any sort. I don't drive. I don't really. When people talk about cars, I have to kind of go, "What's that look like?" Like I have a similar attitude when people talk about makes of cars as I do when people talk about breeds of dog. I have to kind of have a real like, which one's that? What's that one look like?
Okay, is that small? Right. Is that small yappy one?
Yeah, is that one of them? Got it.
Fiat. Right, got it. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of real life vehicles, but I am a fan of fictional vehicles.
That's what I think I found out. That actually I like vehicles in a fictional realm, but not so much in real life. I can take or leave cars and things driving fast, not bothered about them.
Yeah.
But if I see them in a fictional setting, I kind of like them. And again, it's more about aesthetic as much as anything else that I just like. It just looks good.
For sure.
And I'd always find that when, like, you know, on those kind of Top Gear car shows, when they'd be talking about, like, modern cars as well, I just go, but it looks ugly. It's ugly. Why do you want that? And when you see, like, cars from the 50s, even though, people shouldn't drive them now because they will kill you if you crash. And
they use all the petrol.
They use all the petrol.
Yeah.
I'm always like, when I see them, I always go, looks good, though. Yeah. Looks good. Looks like a nice thing. It's like a weird, nice object. And I also like those like 50s racer cars where they're all engine and they kind of look like robots or something. I quite like that kind of stuff. You know, 50s, 60s era cars, I can look at and go, it looks nice. This looks like a nice thing.
A thing that's happened like in my lifetime as a not car person, right? In the 80s and early 90s, 70s cars looked like the worst, ugliest thing in the world.
Yes.
And now 70s cars look pretty cool to me. So
they do.
That's literally changed in my life. Like they were the naffest thing. Like 60s cars look good, but 70s cars look terrible. And now when I see a 70s car, and you don't see that many around, but you still, as soon as they've stopped being around as old cars and they become kind of vintage cars, it's like, no, that one does look quite good though, you know, like a Ford Cortina or something. Yeah, that looks good. That does look good.
But like even modern expensive cars don't look good, even though car people will say that they do and they love it. They love it. They love what they look like. I just look at them and go, an ugly, like boxy thing. And also virtually any kind of 4x4 Range Rover thing, it actually looks ugly.
Yeah, they're terrible.
Ugly things. Terrible things.
They wouldn't get on my list of fictional vehicles if they were fictional.
No. Yeah, real life stuff, not so much. Fictional, I'm all about it.
It's a wide category. I don't feel like I've made a good list. I feel like you're gonna have ones I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, obviously that's better than mine. And also, like, there's loads of stuff I like that I haven't thought of. But you know, I'm getting my list off getting back. Like I'm gearing back up. I'm gonna
I definitely think there's every chance people are going to suggest ones afterwards where I go, yeah, of course, of course. I feel like some of them I like, but I almost feel like there must be more of these that I really like that I haven't thought of yet. And I'm sure there's also some more like technical loophole ones that I'd be like, sure, that's a vehicle that I haven't thought of. You know, someone could suggest something, I go, yeah, I guess that's a vehicle. That's a vehicle, sure.
Yeah.
And that I wouldn't have thought of because they don't quite fit the perhaps I have a narrow viewpoint of what I've considered a vehicle in this respect.
Yeah, I talked to the people currently in my house today about I've just been plunged into relative darkness. That's fine. I'll start that bit again. Yeah, I talked to the people that were in my house this evening, some family, and they were coming out with things. I was like, is that a vehicle? That's more like a thing that you put onto your body. Like, I don't think that's a vehicle. You know what I mean? The smaller the vehicle, the more it's like, is a skateboard a vehicle? That kind of like, it gets sort of,
Yeah.
the more personal transport they get. It's like, I don't know. I don't know. But I haven't looked up the dictionary of a vehicle to see if it includes roller skates.
Neither have I. How do you feel about when Americans say vehicle and they pronounce the
Vehicle,
H in
I
it?
quite like it because it's quite a hick thing to do, and it has hick in it emphasized.
I think it's cute. I think it's a cute thing.
A
Although
vehicle.
I think they wouldn't find that. I think they wouldn't find it cute. I find it quite like. I can see it as quite charming. Vehicle.
And they have things like a vehicular homicide.
Yes, they do. We have that here too, but we call it. What would we call it?
Road traffic accident. I don't know.
Road traffic accident. Yeah.
What do we call it? We called it. Oh man, this is a bad segment. Let's edit that
out. My number 5 is the creepy coupe from the Wacky Races. Big, you know, the Wacky Races cars could mostly have featured in this top 5, really.
Right, they're all good, right? They're all good.
Yeah. They're all pretty good, and they're all the kind of cars that I'd enjoy seeing if they were real cars.
Yeah.
Outside of the fictional realm. The creepy coupe was driven by the gruesome twosome, and there was Little Gruesome, who was a little one, who was kind of voiced like a sort of sounder like Peter Lorre. I should have looked it up to see which of the voice artists did them. And Little Gruesome was like Peter Lorre sounder like, whether he was actually Don Messick voiced or a Mel Blanc or someone I don't know. And there was Big Gruesome, who was kind of voiced after Boris Karloff. So you've got two kind of horror looking people driving a house kind of car that looks like a kind of old haunted house. That the best thing was the top of it, the big kind of arch of the house on top of the car they were driving, has a dragon in it and wings coming out the side, so it can also fly. And I'd love to see it in real life. It's a good car. It's a good car. It's a sort of like a cartoon horror car, which I like about it. In a sort of, and also I like that world of horror in the 60s is still quite narrow. So everything in horror is like, what is it? It's like, they're like vampire guys have got a dragon in a haunted house on a car.
Yeah, it's not like a Japanese person with a TV or some people with a camcorder or some people sewn together by their anuses. It's like just haunted house, dragon, zombie, Frankenstein.
But best of all, because the haunted house is on top of a hearse. So it's like a hearse, haunted house, dragon, driven by two kind of horror, stalwart horror actors, essentially. And you go, yeah, great.
It makes you think that this list is going to be a bit like our ideal parade. Like there'd be like a parade of these vehicles, and that would come past, and you'd be really excited, and you'd lift the kids up to have a look, and you'd clap them as they came past, and then the next time probably be just like some sports car, and you go, not bothered.
Yeah. That reminds me, because this last weekend was the Lord Mayor's show.
Yeah.
And we used to go to the Lord Mayor's show every year in London, and to watch some weird parade and flotillas featuring things like, there's like a guy dressed up like a plug who's from like British Electric or something.
Yeah.
It'll be like this weird sort of quite corporate flotillas of sort of fun fun mascots for like British Gas or something.
Yeah.
A weird old thing that was. I mean, in some ways, I'd be quite interested to go to the Lord Mayor show.
Now to see what it is.
Yeah, see what kind of floats they have.
I'm gonna guess exactly the same.
Yeah.
Do you think they still throw sweets at the kids? That's the best thing, right? When they like have sweets to throw at you. Probably not now.
You see those ones, don't you, in America that are kind of organized by the big department stores, and you're with like huge kind of blimps and things of cartoon characters. And when we do it, it's like, yeah, we can do that. And it's like the only sponsors we can get are like massive corporations who would do like a little kind of weird float. But the best thing about the Lord Mayor show is they used to have a little fun fair by St. Paul's in the evening. I don't know if they still do that.
Is there room?
I don't know if they would now. I don't know if they would.
Maybe you could put it around that pedestrianised street bit. Anyway.
Yeah, possibly.
Shall I do my number 5?
Go for it.
My number 5 is the ATeam van from the 80s TV show, The ATeam. And that's just a van, right? But it's black with a red stripe and it looks cool. And it looked really cool to me as a kid. And I think it's just the magic of a sort of action-y TV show that's a bit too old for you. The way that can make you want a boring van, you know, is like, that's quite powerful stuff going on there, because I don't want a van at all. Like, especially, you know, that van's massive, right? And behind me, I've got sitting there the ATeam soundtrack, right?
Yeah.
I'll just grab it. Music composed by Mike Post and Pete Carpenter. Exciting music from the hit television series. ATeam.
And the cover has just got George Peppard and Mr. T. They've not really got the other cast. Oh, they appear in a smaller
they're in a smaller
photo.
picture, but they knew who the stars were. And the back just has BA.
Just Mr. T. BA Baracus.
And the van doesn't feature on the record, right? But when I got this record in the record shop, when I was working in the record shop, it had inside it a number of pieces of paper.
Mm-hmm.
And they are
absolute trove.
The working up of a business, right? And this is the basic fit. This is a piece of paper which has written in pencil on it, ATeam Executive Travel.
Yes.
Right? And they've got some blurb inside it. ATeam Executive Travel, telephone/fax 0181 449 9613. Mobile 0956 838 491. Now that's it, right? So it's an 0181 number, which I think puts it before 1993, something like that, right? And yet they have a mobile number. I'm impressed. For all your private, corporate, business, or leisure hire, weddings, luxury limousine service, including airport transfers, all sporting, music, film, and events. So that's the initial thing, right? And then they've worked it up to a leaflet like this. ATeam Executive Travel.
Wait.
An invitation to be driven in luxury.
Mm-hmm.
This was in the same... Yeah, so this is all in the same record.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The photo isn't a black van with a red stripe.
Nope. And the photo, and let me just get to this, right? The photo is of a Sherrod van. Specifically, it says here SLX by Sherrod, and it's got pictures of the hideous leather interior. It's got like Venetian blinds in a car, in a van. Anyway, it's got a picture of like TV sets and, you know, hi-fis, VHS, everything going on there. The all new SLX by Sherrod with plush fabric interior, etc., etc. The ATeam van is a 1983 GMC Vandura van, General Motors. It is not a Sherrod van. So these people in the UK in the 90s, early 90s, are making a business with Sherrod vans purporting to be ATeam vans. Shabby.
I would have said, you know, it wasn't in the... So I'd say that's probably a decade later, almost. You're getting on for a decade after the show's on TV. Heyday of the ATeam, I'm saying 85, 86. I reckon 18. Heyday. So maybe almost 10 years later, they've got, we're going to do a business where we're going to sell the idea of a van experience. We can take it to your event. We can take you places. It's like a limo service, but instead of a limo, it's going to be a van. It's going to be the ATeam van. Is it the ATeam van? No, it's a van.
But it's like a van, it's a luxury van. And people going, I don't even know what that is. What is a luxury van? And they've gone, oh, it's like the ATeam van. And people go, oh, okay, yeah, I remember that. It's quite leathery inside. Yeah, it's really leathery. It's got walnut. And they've even got this later version, which is a postcard, quite slick looking postcard, really showing off the pleather.
The leather interior.
The leatherette is on show. And it says here, plenty of legroom, color 14-inch TV with teletext. Oh, imagine teletext on the go. Video, CD stereo, cooler, deep pile carpets, and a choice of intimate lighting with day/night blinds. But they've written in with pen there, Sony PlayStation. Sony PlayStation. So that further dates it. This is a later in the 90s. You know, this could be as late as 98. You know,
but that's like they've crossed it out and gone, nah, not now. It's like they was constantly updating his business model. Maybe
updating the business model. ATeam Executive Travel, 91 Birchington Road, West Hampstead, London. I've checked; it's not still running. But this is my favourite bit that was in there. This is the last piece of history that was in there. An invitation to be driven in luxury with ... And this is a high quality envelope with a small thing inside it. Alan. That's what it says on the card. A and B chauffeur driven car and courier services. Alan.
Because also at this period, you know, we're thinking maybe mid to late 90s. We're thinking a lot of the ATeam cast, for not a huge amount of money, might be willing to get involved with like a special feature. You've got an ATeam van, you might be able to go, oh yeah, we can get Dirk Benedict or
to drive you from Heathrow to the Docklands Arena for you to watch Gladiators tour, something like that, right? That's the sort of thing you expect. No, it's just Alan from West Hampstead, and it's not even a real General Motors ATeam van, and there's no indication that they've painted them black and red. So the ATeam bit is very tenuous.
Yeah, whether they've even sought out the rights to call themselves the ATeam van hire company.
I don't know if you can copyright ATeam very well because it's, I don't know, maybe. But anyway.
They were using the big A of the ATeam.
Yeah, they were. I mean, assuming, you know, even without this nonsense that was stuck inside a record sleeve, I am that van. Like, I just need to see the van and I go, oh yeah, that's good. And which is, no other van has that effect on me, you know? Maybe like a classic VW camper van. I think, oh, that's nice. But that's it. That's two vans in the whole history of the world.
You're right. And the ATeam van, if it was any other colour, wouldn't be impressive. And I think it is the red stripe that adds to it.
Yeah, the red stripe, because the red stripe goes up over the spoiler on the top, you know? So the red stripe goes along the side and up diagonally to the spoiler. That's nice.
And I think given it was in the age of a kind of following stuff like a Knight Rider, which is itself a black car with a, you know, the red light on the front.
Yeah.
You kind of start thinking, oh, well, maybe it's a magic special van.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It was just a van. But I think as a kid, you do imbue the van with some extra properties.
I would say the only thing that van had going on inside, apart from some pleather, was it had like a big stash of costumes for Hannibal to change into, right? It had quite a lot of guns.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that's it. Like, I just don't think there wasn't any cool stuff. Do you know what I mean? There wasn't any trickery. It couldn't do any tricks.
No.
It wasn't sentient. No. Just a cool looking van. So that's my number 5. Cool looking van.
It's a good one. My number 4 is the essentially it's the Mr. Incredible car, which I didn't realize has several names. It is called the Incredible, the Incredimobile, which I quite like that, if I could say it, the Incredicar, or the Incredobile.
I think the Incredimobile is the best name there.
Incredimobile.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was because that makes it as a car again very much by the time the Incredibles film came out, I knew by then that I am the type of person who doesn't like cars.
Right.
It didn't trick me in a time when I was a youngster.
Mm-hmm.
I was an adult when that film came out. And yet it was the kind of thing that when I saw the car, I was always a bit like, can you get a little model of the car? I love the car. Again, in that it's a film that kind of adopts a very kind of early 60s aesthetic, so it is going to use the kind of cars of that era as a kind of jumping off point. And it's just that kind of the idea, and it just gives that thing of just being slightly too long than it needs to be. I remember there was a toy you could get which had where you would start with Mr. Incredible. Essentially his civilian identity.
Mm-hmm.
You'd press a button, and the Mr. Incredible would actually swap with the
nice
with his civilian garb, which is quite a nice car thing.
Nice.
So I'd see these toys about. I never actually got one in the end, but it was always one of those things where it was good enough that I was very tempted to buy a toy car for the first time in many years. And also, it is the kind of car that you do kind of covet, I think. Like, it does feel like, I'd already established, I'm not into cars.
Yeah.
But that was one where I really did have that desire to get hold of one.
And again, if you could transition into the cartoon world, you'd be happy to drive that car, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Would you
100%.
bother to go and take your cartoon driving test?
I think in the cartoon world, I think it's kind of a given. I think it's a bit like you can ride a bike if you get L plates. I think it's a bit like that. I think it's sort of a bit of a, we sort of assume it'll be all right. We're not going to really have a test or something. It's got those same kind of...
It's like if you grew up in the countryside.
Yeah, it's like when you grew up in the countryside and you can just kind of drive.
Yeah.
And they just say, "Oh, do you know who owns this field?" And if you say, "Yeah," it's like, that's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine. In the same way in the country, all the pubs have like parking out front, and you always go, I mean, surely these people are all drinking in a pub, right? And it's like, yeah, that's right, yeah. There's different rules. Different rules seem to
it's
apply.
okay because they've all got cartoon driving licenses, so they can.
Yeah.
They can drive home drunk. The car will save them. My number 4 is a generic fictional vehicle. I think it's a vehicle. Is a mech suit, a mecha.
Oh, like yeah.
Gundam, Mazinger Z, that kind of thing, right? You're like an exoskeleton for your body that you can hop into and pilot. It might be a bit bigger than your body. It might be like as big as a skyscraper, but it's piloted by a human or an alien, and but it's got the form of a kind of humanoid robot kind of thing. And like I'm not like a huge Gundam person or something. I've never built a Gundam kit, or I've never watched Mazinger. I know what it is, that kind of thing. But I just think that's a really compelling. When I've had a daydream about like flying about, I'm not a kind of Superman, just flying magically from my own, like I can just fly. I'm much more of a kind of Iron Man, repulsors in my hands and feet kind of flyer. That's how I fly.
You'd like to know what the propulsion is.
Right. I'm more of a tech side flyer than a magic superpowers flyer, right?
I can see that.
And a mech suit, I think, really nice for that, because you can just have everything like strapped on. Like, we're strapped by steel doors. It's like, it's okay. I've got this rocket launcher that comes out that can, that kind of thing. Just have loads of crap technical stuff like attached to you. Quite into that. My favorite example of it is a video game made by a small company called Treasure in Japan, and the video game came out on the N64 in Japan, but we didn't get it here. But then they did it on the Dreamcast, the Sega Dreamcast, my beloved Sega Dreamcast. Theoretically failed video game system that I just had some of the best games, and one of them was this game Bangai-O, right? And it was an absolutely batshit crazy Japanese shooting game where you piloted this mecha at the beginning of the level, I think a little tiny character walked in and went to the cockpit sort of thing, and then it was like you just flew around the screen, blowing up buildings. You blew up everything. You could shoot in all directions, and you had to blow up everything that came at you, ships and other robots and tanks and stuff. You blow them all up. You got to shoot them all, shoot all the buildings, destroy everything. And when it looks like you're going to get destroyed because there's this like hail of bullets raining down on you, you can press a button which launched the number of bullets out of you in a circle equal to the number of things that were coming at you. So it benefited you to like let things really build up. So you're just about to die, and then you let it go, and it was like, and everything would blow up, and it'd be this crazy. The whole screen would just be completely full of incomprehensible
like a sort of big firework,
like a million big fireworks, and it was great and crazy. And the cutscenes in between were just like, what the. If you died, like it was like it cut to a picture of a small, like naked, sort of kind of like a rust troll, like dancing off across the fields or something. It's like, you've died. It was like, what are you talking about? So it was a mad game, but it was brilliant, and it really had you really had a sense that this is a massive Mecha Suit thing, and it's just blowing everything up. It was great. They've made some sequels, but I don't think they're supposed to be all that. But love it. Bang.io, Mecha Suit. I definitely take that. If someone said to me, do you want to pilot my Mecha Suit? I'd be like, yeah, go on then. Whereas I wouldn't get in a helicopter. I wouldn't get in a helicopter. But I would.
Safer though, isn't it? Safer being in a Mecha Suit, I think.
I guess. I don't know. They're similar, aren't they?
The technology is so futuristic that it must be safer.
Well, you could land on your feet, your mecha feet,
Yeah.
Which you couldn't say if you were in a helicopter. No one's going to say, I'll be all right, I'll land on my feet.
I'm similar, actually. You've convinced me. I think that's... and what I like, when you have your sort of superheroes now, like your Iron Man, they try and justify how it's all working, and it's all like nanotechnology. What I quite like about those mech costumes is that, but how does that work? How do you fit those propulsions? And you go, it's massive.
Yeah, it's massive.
Massive.
It's like, no, that's massive. That thing that looks like a small jet engine, that's a normal jet engine.
Yeah.
And there's 8 of them on each leg. That's
fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
It works. It's got a logic to it. I like. Yeah, you're right. I think there was all that when I was a kid. There was a film called Robot Jocks that was a kind of which was that idea of people inside robot costumes, kind of slightly ahead of its time. But I think that like you, I'm not that bothered by the kind of animations of your kind of Gundam Wing and all that stuff. I don't really care about the mythology, which is odd. I quite usually like that in things, whereas I do like seeing the little models of them and going, I quite like that kind of little robot model with a little man inside.
Yeah, because it's that thing, you go, it's a little robot. And you go, it's not a little robot. It's a massive robot with a little man. Yeah. That somehow makes it cooler.
And also when I was a kid, we had the Tomy Toys Zoids.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
You could get a little tiny man that wasn't even posable. It was like a little model thing that you just sit inside it.
Inside their face, they had a little bit that went up, and then you put the little man there. Zoids are fantastic, high quality toys.
Yeah, which again, another Japanese import, wasn't it, Tomy?
Absolutely.
So they're way ahead over there. They're way ahead. We actually, as a kid, I'm not a big computer game person. We had a Sega Dreamcast, and it was the first time. It's one of its big selling points was that it had a modem, so you could get onto the internet. It was a sort of pre-Google internet as well.
Yeah.
So like you would have, like now if you're on Netflix and you've got a search for the film going letter by letter, imagine that, but doing HTTP. You couldn't search for things. You had to like do the kind of full on address, one character at a time.
Yeah.
Some sort of GeoCities. So you had to know what you were looking for.
You could search, but you'd have to type in like Yahoo or
you'd probably have that would be your best bet.
Or whatever they were called back then, search engines, Alta Vista, to get anywhere. You could get a keyboard for it, but no one did because you could have bought a game instead. So
yeah, but it was a very exciting thing. That did feel like the future. Like, oh wow, this one's got a modem.
It's great.
It's super exciting. Super exciting.
Super console. Still got mine.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I haven't got it out for a while because they don't look so good in modern TVs, unfortunately.
My number 3 is the Yellow Submarine from the Beatles, the Yellow Submarine cartoon. And what something that's become such a real designed classic, that if you say the Yellow Submarine, you picture that specific yellow submarine. It isn't something where it's just like a generic. It's a very specific designed, and it's one of the design of it is by Heinz Edelman, and it was one of those things. I think that I saw that he's often credited to Peter Max, which I think I've often thought as well that it was Peter Max who did it, the pop artist. But it isn't. It is done by these kind of animators. I think there's so many animators working on those films that a lot of people get credit for certain things that they didn't. I think didn't they? I think Alan Alberg, the children's illustrator, I think had something to do with it. So really? I think also there's been times when I've thought he was involved in it somehow as well. But certainly, yeah, from the animated movie, The Yellow Submarine, it's a great sort of design classic now, I think.
We should have asked Jeremy on Saturday, who we were talking to in the pub that worked on it.
Oh, yeah. Of course,
we should have asked for the definitive answer. Oops.
Who did?
Yeah. Who did?
But supposedly, I think looking at it, it does seem to be a guy called Heinz Edelman is the kind of proper designer on it. But lots of very talented pop artists and various artists worked on the film. So I guess there's probably maybe Peter Max designed other things within it. Yeah. But I think there's lots of people who do get credit for that stuff. But supposedly, with a wee bit of research, I can see one. Yeah, I can see one in your background.
It's not behind me.
There is. It was Heinz Edelman is actually the creator of the Yellow Submarine.
Something I like about it is when I'm in Greece or anywhere by the sea where they have like submarines, or they're not even submarines generally. They're called submarines, but they're just kind of often like glass bottom boats or things for observing in the water, right? Seeing fish and stuff, right? And they'll all be painted yellow. Like now it's just like a submarine. Yeah, so you have to make it yellow,? Whereas I reckon, I'm not definite, but I reckon prior to the film Yellow Submarine, or the song Yellow Submarine, to be fair.
Yeah.
No, but the song doesn't tell you it's yellow.
Well, they say we all live in a yellow submarine. So they kind of do. It's certainly implied. Unless it's just called the Yellow Submarine, but it isn't.
I'm going to edit that bit out. There's no way I was going in there. I meant the song doesn't tell you what it looks like, but it does tell you it's yellow. That's definitely going to edit it out.
Is that like the thing where Humpty Dumpty, and they go, why do you think Humpty Dumpty's an egg? And you go, oh yeah. Nothing in Humpty Dumpty says he's an egg. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. This is someone who's fallen off a wall.
Yeah.
He's an egg, apparently. Why is he an egg?
I can't answer that.
Exactly.
In the words of Bros. Did you know that the Spanish football team Villarreal are known as the Yellow Submarine?
No, how come? What's the origin?
Oh no, they play in all yellow, like an all yellow strip, yellow top, yellow shorts, and that had something to do with that. They became known by their fans as the Yellow Submarine, as they sing "We All Live in the Yellow Submarine" with Spanish accents at all their games, and yeah, they're just known as the Yellow Submarine.
I also like there's a sort of, I guess, almost like a subgenre of fiction, I guess, films and books and stories from around the First World War, where it was obviously a thing. There was a race to be the first that built submersibles. So there's lots of these subgenres about various spies that are trying to get plans for Germans, or Germans trying to get plans for British submersibles. I always really like that idea, which I guess is one of those things, again, that probably comes from like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. So people go, let's try and make that.
Yeah.
Let's try and do that.
Yeah, science fiction influencing real life. Now, I find submarines quite terrifying things. So the Yellow Submarine is like a joyful, lovely thing. It's quite special, right? Because when I think about submarines, I'm like, I never want to go on a submarine. Like,
No.
and especially after what happened to that journalist, and like just submarines. Just as soon as the doors close, you're like, oh no, get me off, get me off, get me off. You know.
I think it would be like, you have those moments on a plane, maybe if you go to the toilet or something and you stand up and you're walking along the plane and you have this moment where you go, I'm in like midair flying at 800 miles an hour. This isn't right. And I'm walking along a thing.
Yeah.
And you sort of feel a bit safer when I'm kind of, when I'm just sat in my seat. But when I'm walking along, it's like, nah, this doesn't make any sense.
I get it when you're walking on a train, even when you're walking on a train back against the direction the train's going.
Yes, yeah.
And you get that kind of like, ooh, like.
I think there must that kind of anxiety must be with you 24 hours a day on a submarine.
I guess it's
because they're going, I'm under.
Because they don't actually have windows in general, do they? Submarines, it's impractical. No. So the yellow submarine does, but your proper submarines, unless they're like, nature watching ones, are a bit like you can't see anything anyway. So, yeah, creepy.
Yeah,
creepy. Was that your number 3?
My number 3.
My number 3 is Thunderbird II. The big chubby green spaceship, flying truck from Kirby flying truck from the Thunderbirds. And I'm not a Thunderbirds fan, not bothered. Like, it was on when I was a kid, but obviously it was already 40 years old or whatever. No, not that much. 20. Yeesh. And I'd watch it, but I wasn't like, oh, I love this. I much preferred Stingray, like I wasn't that bothered about Thunderbirds. But anytime it was Thunderbird 2 on the screen, I just had that thing of like, that's a cool looking ship. And then the middle comes down and out comes Thunderbird 4, which is not a very cool ship. It looks like a Robin Reliant yellow. But that's fine because it's inside the other thing, And I thought that was cool on Knight Rider or something, how the kit would come out of like a big truck, like, a vehicle inside a vehicle. That's pretty cool, and the toys that had a vehicle inside a vehicle were cool. So Thunderbird 2, I just think with the yellow and green color scheme and the just chubby flying machine, really impressive to look at, and just made you want the toy. You get the die-cast toys of it that were great, and my cousins, Thunderbirds was really big a bit after we were kids. They had this big resurgence with the like Blue Peter, Tracy Island, fad and all that stuff, right? And my cousins had the Thunderbird 2 with the Thunderbird 4 that came out of the inside, and I was like, that's just a cool toy. That's just like it's a quality toy from a bygone era, So when I was thinking about this, I was just like, don't care about the show, but Thunderbird 2 is amazing. And it had other vehicles that went inside it too. The Mole, the Firefly, and the Monobrake. And even some other ones. Just cool,
Yeah, I'm same. I like it. It nearly made my list, and I was a bit like, why do I think that?
Yeah, why?
I don't think of myself. I don't think of myself as a Thunderbirds fan or anything. But I was like, it was one of the ones that popped in my head, like, and I think it is. It is naturally quite cool. I think for like a generation older than us as well, that is definitely the one that people were obsessed about.
Yeah,
and they were obsessed about it. Like, I think if you spoke to people a bit older than us who were like kids when Thunderbirds were on, they would be well into the show, and especially kind of well into Thunderbird 2. Yeah. And it's naturally, you can see naturally why that is. It's definitely the best. Isn't one of the Thunderbirds like, it's like isn't it like a moon base or something? Or there's just like
just a
bloke who sits in the space station on his own.
Yeah. Is that 5? I think it might be 5.
I think that is 5. That is 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was never a big Thunderbirds person. I found it a bit too long for my liking. I preferred those Jerry Anderson things when they're like 20 minutes. So I liked a Captain Scarlet or something like that when I was a kid. I wasn't really Thunderbirds. When you sit down and watch one of them and it's on for like an hour or something, you're going, wow, this is long time to be watching puppets.
And if I think they were on
going down slides,
they were on ITV for a bit, right?
And
they had about 30 ad breaks in them. They'd be come back from the ad break and you'd be going, oh, please be finished. But I think Thunderbird 2 has that vibe as well. Like it's I think that's quite a young person's vehicle in the sense that you could imagine if that was your vehicle. You imagine picking up all your friends. I'll come pick you up. Come pick you up in Thunderbird 2 and we'll just go drive around the sky. I just think it's a really neat kind of hanging out kind of ship to have, you know?
Yeah.
It's got decent size to it, much like an ATeam van. If you had the ATeam van, you'd just be like, I'll come and pick you all up, you know? Like
I reckon if I had
suburban
an
kids.
ATeam van, I would start a small business where I take it to events in a Hampstead area, maybe.
Yeah.
That's what I'd do.
I'm trying to find the
different strokes for different folks, I guess. You know,
I wouldn't offer strokes for folks in a leather van. It's another business. Thunderbird 2.
Thunderbird 2. No, it's a good one. That's a good one. I think you've nailed it as well. I think there is something quite special about the idea of a vehicle that is inside another vehicle.
Yeah,
that was always super exciting to me. As a toy, especially as a kid, it's like, oh no, there's something inside the thing which you can also take out and play with.
Yeah, and
like,
they definitely realized that, the toy makers. They were like, this car's got a boat in it, you know, Mask, or as in the Mobile Action Strike Command, not the Jim Carrey film, or like, what were those toys that had like 1 billion little plastic men in them, like Manta Ray and those things? I can't remember what they were called, but they were like quite cheap and nasty, but huge, with loads of people in. And they would also have like little ships that could come out. Transformers had ones that could come out of other ones. It's just
Transformers also had Soundwave, didn't he? Where he could have a tape deck, but if the tape was also a transformer, it could either be, what was he called, the Panther one, or Laserbeak was the other one. Oh, that's Winner. That's a great idea. Winner.
You feel like those kind of ideas are the things, like, you know, in the film Big with Tom Hanks, how like that's how those ideas worked. It was a little boy that was like beamed into the body of a grown man, and then he got a job at a toy company and was like, what you need is vehicles inside vehicles. And they've got this guy's got something, and all the time it was a kid.
My number 2 is the 1966 era Batmobile. Again, I kind of don't like the kind of idea of what people talk about. Like when a new Batman film comes out, people talk about it like, oh, I wonder what the Batmobile is going to be like. And I go, I don't care. Absolutely don't care. It's always going to look terrible now because they did it in the 60s and they got a cool one. And so every film since, they go, let's design a new cool car. And in all of them, you see it and go, rubbish. Like, it's just like, you know, the Michael Keaton one is kind of fine, but you've already done one where you've nailed it. You've got a real kind of open top. Apparently, it's I don't know about cars, but if you do, it was based on a 1955 Lincoln Futura. I don't know what that looks like. But it was a 50s car, which I guess is the kind of interesting thing. So even in the 60s, that design was kind of slightly out of date.
Yeah.
But I think there was something quite cool about it even then that was quite retro. And that they were using this kind of... And at the time, I think they were trying to use a Cadillac and go, can we just turn it into something? So rather than have an existing car, they decided quite early on, well, let's just find something and customize it into this thing. So, you know, you've got these panel beaters that add bits to this this car. Again, it's black with a red stripe around it, like the ATeam.
It's quite a pinky red. It's quite a pinky red. It's not as punchy as the ATeam colours.
Yeah.
It's
and I guess with a show as colourful as that 60s Batman show, that they would have to, like, probably at the time they're a bit like, black cars, not really a great thing here. Well, let's have a red stripe going around it with all the kind of tails on it and the huge kind of headlights. It's great. And it's actually kind of more what those... Before that time, I actually often like the Batmobile in the comics, especially in that kind of... you get those 40s ones where it is like a real boxy car with like almost like a Batman head on the front and things. I much prefer that kind of stuff.
I've
Like
forgotten about that. You know, it has a bat head on the front.
yeah,
That's funny.
I mean that stuff I much prefer. And like even now when it's like I think the last couple of films, it's almost like it becomes more and more like a tank.
It's like an
And it's
armored
like,
car.
yeah, this is what it is now. Yeah,
It's
it's
an
like a
armored
big,
car, but it's
yeah,
like one of those toys that if it falls upside down, it can still drive.
yeah.
That's not, yeah. People are really into it, man. Like you can get like a
Mm.
Lego sort of collector's series version of, was it the Tumbler, the one? And it's like, 5,000 Lego pieces. It's like, that looks rubbish. Who wants that one? People do.
Mm.
People want it. They want it. They want a Batmobile that looks like a stealth bomber with big fat wheels.
And I guess it is like it's another sort of franchise where the car is implied. I guess James Bond has that too. I guess where he's got a car in all of them.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's the same car or new ones.
he gets
I
new
know.
ones.
Yeah, I know one. They go underwater. I'd be up. That's the one that I always think. There's a Lotus
Yeah.
one in there where you can drive underwater.
Do
That's
they have
fun.
any? Do they have anywhere a car is inside a car?
I don't think so.
I'm out.
Silly idea.
Um,
Yeah, if proper James Bond.
the one thing I like about the 89 Batman
Yeah.
Batmobile, the one thing I like, there was a video game of it. I don't know if you ever played it, and it was back in the days when like film video games would be like each level would be like a completely different thing from the film. So I think the first level was like you're running along as Batman and hitting people. Fine.
Yes.
Second level, you're driving forwards in the car around
Yeah.
the streets of Gotham. And the only way you can turn the corner, as I remember it, is by like lassoing street lamps. And that would pull you around a corner like a 90-degree turn really fast.
That's
That
exactly
was
it.
the entire premise of that level, and it was hard as hell.
We had that. That game came free with like a special edition of the Commodore Amiga that we all got for one Christmas, and that was it. There's like one shot in the film where he turns a corner that way by shooting out this sort of.
But there's
the
no
Batarang
indication that's
thing.
the only way it can steer, which is what happened in the game.
Exactly. In the film he does that as a sort of fast turn.
Yeah.
But the game took that premise and went, "Oh right, yeah, he can't steer. There's no steering wheel.
It's probably
He can only
it's
turn
probably
corners."
true because that shot was probably in the trailer, and most video games most licensed things based on films have just seen the trailer. That's all they've got to go on. So they're like, I guess he does that for every corner, so we'll do that. Naffness.
One of the other levels on that game was you were just picking various items from a supermarket, and two of which together would be the Joker poison. But it was a bit like when you have to do that game where you have to blind guess where the corresponding card is. Is it that
pairs,
one?
Pairs.
Yeah, you have to like play pairs with it.
Well,
and essentially that as a game,
such a
as a
blatant,
round in a Batman game.
The programmers were blatantly like, we need 3 more different levels. And they're like, we've only got 2 days, Dave. Like, what do you mean? I've got like a pairs program written, so we could use that for like picking ingredients for poison. Brilliant. 80s video game development. My favorite thing about the 66 Batmobile is that the way it was cut, like when they get in it and it was like, a shot of them jumping in the top, and then it would be the rear shot of the flames coming out of the exhaust pipe, and then it would cut to like the front zooming off, and then the cave bit opening up, and that was all cut like bam, 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 in an era of some relatively slow action. I mean, the cutting on it was so good, really nice. Like,
Well, similarly, that was one of the things that used to be how they made up the time in Thunderbirds, wasn't it? That's why they could get it to an hour, because they had this stock footage of them all getting into their vehicles without standing up. So they'd always have to find a way where these puppets could be like, there's a slide in the floor or something where they slide off their chair.
Yeah.
And you just think, God, they're lazy, aren't they? The Thunderbirds. They've just got to, they don't want to move. They just have to sort of slowly slide into things rather than just stand up and walk to where they want to go.
Yeah, they're like Wallace and Gromit before their time.
Exactly.
No, I definitely had the 66 Batmobile in my honorable mentions. It's well up there. I think I'm not even a big Batman fan. Like, I obviously watched the 60s show a lot as a kid, but like it's just cool. It's just cool looking. If you
Those,
saw one of them in the street, you'd be like, wow.
yeah, I think I'd be really excited in a way that I wouldn't be excited to see more famous sort of movie cars and things.
Right.
And I might get onto that a bit later in the honorable mentions. But that was designed by a guy, he had a company, a guy called George Barris, and his job was customizing cars for Hollywood. And he didn't work on the Batman 1966 Batmobile, but his company did.
Mhm.
But he did do the Dragula from the Munsters. So he was sort of responsible for all those kind of TV and movie cars.
Which is great because they all in turn went on to become like die-cast toy cars and this kind of thing. Imagine the influence that guy's had on like Christmas mornings. Beautiful. My number 2 is again a generic one, right? It's any kind of flying ship. Now I don't mean like an airship, like a dirigible, you know. I don't mean a zeppelin. I mean a wooden galleon.
Okay.
That can fly, right? You might think video games like Skies of Arcadia, Super Mario World has them regularly, and flying through the clouds, wooden ship, sails, and either magic or engines or whatever to make it fly. Propellers is good. Or possibly you'd think Teddy Ruxpin, you know?
Yes, Teddy Ruxpin.
That didn't have sails, but it had a big bag of air, but then underneath was a wooden ship. And I was thinking about this. I was thinking, what vehicle would I most like? If I was going on an adventure, what vehicle do I want, like ideally? And it's a flying wooden ship. That's what I want. That's the traveling lifestyle that I want in the fictional vehicle. Like you could have a really nice cabin. You wouldn't get seasick because like you might get a bit of wind turbulence, but we know what that's like. It's okay, isn't it? You know? It's not like trying to sleep in a boat when you're going up and down the waves.
You could probably quite easily get a bit of air on as well if you want to.
Yep.
So it's exactly, well, it's the opposite way of traveling than the submarine.
Yes, so it's the opposite of a submarine. I just really like it. It's one of those things like it's more in video games, really big in Japan. Like you'll get in a lot of video games and manga and stuff. They'll be like, flying ships, and it's just like to stand on the deck. Obviously, we know that probably be quite hard because of pressure and stuff, but you can fly quite low. Teddy Ruxpin flew quite low, as I remember it.
Sure.
But you could fly quite low, and so it'd be a lot like being in a hot air balloon. But it'd be a big ship, and you could have like a proper toilet and sleeping quarters, and
I imagine you could even have like chefs preparing meals and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Quite civilized.
And a big wheel for steering it. It's probably that's basically it. If I'm going on an adventure, so I'm thinking bigger. So like I thought about a lot of spaceships, but bigger spaceships. Apart from in Star Wars, I'm not into them. Like a USS Enterprise or something. I'm not attracted to the big spaceships. Like the Axiom in Wall-E. That's a big spaceship, right? It's like a whole. I'm not into big spaceships. I'd rather have a flying boat. That's my choice. If we ever, for some reason, if you have this one wish, but it's got to be specifically for Aussie to have a fictional vehicle to go on an adventure, specifically, get me a flying ship. Okay.
I can see that. I like it. Yeah, it does feel like it's an aesthetic that feels quite kind of Japanese somehow. It's not quite that in like Nausicaa, but like it's got a similar kind of
it's in that
world in that kind of I can see that. I think
it's quite slow. I think it's not a fast way of getting about.
Sure. Well,
I'm keen. I'd go. I'm not into cruises. I wouldn't go on a cruise really, a cruise ship, but I might go on one if it was flying.
Yeah.
A flying cruise.
Yeah. I like that idea.
I don't want to go on one with Teddy Ruxpin, just for the record. That guy's annoying.
You can tell your stories. Do you ever have a Teddy Ruxpin?
No, my cousin had one, and it's cool because you could put other tapes in and make it sing along.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that'd be the appeal of it.
Put some.
Never had one, but I was kind of, I was kind of into the idea. Kind of like the idea of it.
But all it did was like this.
Yeah. We had one like that. There was it was like a cheap sort of thing that we got from Tandy. That was like a robot that just opened its mouth up and down, and it was also, it could pick up radio signals. But it was immediately disappointing because we go, oh, let's put the radio on and have him sing along.
It would just go.
But of course, if it was any instrumental bit, he would still just open his mouth like an idiot. It wasn't like he was singing along at all. So immediately disappointing. As soon as you turn it on, you go, it's disappointing.
You're better for one of those dancing flowers. Do you remember them?
Yeah, much better off.
What's your number one?
My number one is the Moon Rocket from Destination Moon and Explorers on the Moon, the Tintin books, the red and white checked moon rocket. It's one of those things that's such a pleasing thing to see. And again, it's one of those things where like I always like to see it. I always like it when people reference it. It's moon rocket. And weirdly, it's sort of one of the most, or perhaps the most iconic thing in all of those Tintin books, despite the fact it's really kind of atypical to things that happen in Tintin books.
Yeah.
And it came about because, there was, at the time, for a while, Hergé has like an assistant, Edgar P. Jacobs, who ended up doing the Blake and Mortimer books. And in Tintin magazine in Belgium, he started doing had sci-fi elements in his Blake and Mortimer stories, and they were really popular. And there was a lot of pressure of people going, "Oh, you're going to put some bits of sci-fi in the Tintin books," and he was always like, "No, it's not really a sci-fi thing." But he was he always felt like he was missing out because all the Tintin books were always based on sort of facts. He would travel, and it would always be like really heavily referenced. So if Tintin was anywhere, it would be really heavily referenced to that's where he is. It's a really specific place that he's traveling in. And the idea of doing a sort of sci-fi version in the kind of, I think it was like 1950, 1952, those books, that it was just like he sort of saw it as being a bit of a cheat. Like, he can't really do sci-fi stuff. And the way he sort of compromised was that he was like, right, well then I'm going to find out how space travel will work. So then it was all going to like NASA and finding out exactly how rockets would work. So instead he treats it like, well, it's not really science fiction because what I'm doing is like what current thinking is and how we can kind of really specifically get on to work out how space travel will work. And does this thing which, and in the intervening kind of 17 years or whatever in between the books, it is kind of, not a lot changes. So it is a lot kind of about kind of rocket propulsion and things. And the idea was always that it's meant to be like an unmanned rocket that they accidentally end up being inside, and it is manned. And it also, of course, has the ability to go back, which was the other thing that didn't have at the time. And this is kind of how he got around it. But it sort of becomes these very iconic, and certainly as a kid, they're the most attractive Tintin books because they're like space ones. And when they get there, they're still quite kind of funny comic adventures. But like there is something about it, which also, growing up in an era when, in the time we've been alive, you can go to the moon. But it's kind of
no one's been to the moon in the time we've been alive.
No, but we're capable. We know that growing up. It isn't a thing where it isn't a thing where if you're growing up in the 50s and 60s as a kid, there's a point where we can't go to the moon, and then there is a point when you can. Whereas we always grew up in an era where we knew we were capable of that. So I didn't even know, and reading that as a kid, it's funny to read it that to us that isn't science fiction. But it was it's written as a piece of science fiction, and it's really the only bit of science fiction that's in any of the Tintin books. They're kind of adventure strips and very much based on reality, which is kind of what their strength is. And And then and he became so associated. They were kind of like some of the most popular Tintin books, and Hergé was so kind of sort of synonymous with those moon landings that you can actually get it. You can get, I don't know if it's still available, you can get a good sort of deluxe version of those books where you also have a lot of those kind of design things, a lot of the work he did with NASA. And also when he did like an official kind of newspaper strip of the moon landings when they happened, because he was so kind of synonymous with. And he also drew this really nice picture, which I don't think it was baiting anyone, but it's quite an amusing thing that you will see kind of recreated, which is a sort of a cartoon of Neil Armstrong putting the American flag in the moon, and while he's there, Tintin and Captain Haddock are already there waving at him, and it's quite a nice like idea that they've been there first. But yeah, I really love that Tintin moon rocket. I think is such a. I think even if you're not really into Tintin, I think when I think of like that objects and vehicles and specifically rockets, I think of that's almost like your A1 number one rocket.
I think you're probably right. It's probably quite an influence on the list off logo as well.
Yeah, I think it might be.
Just that kind of type of rocket. It's a classic. I'm really not a Tintin fan. It's like one of those things. I'm really not a Tintin fan. I was always on the asterisk side of that war. It wasn't a war, was it? But it felt like it. If you were like the one village holding out against all the Tintin. But yeah, the rockets are beautiful, and absolutely, if I went in the library and was picking, I'd be picking the spaceship one for sure.
Yeah,
beautiful looking.
That's my number one vehicle. What's yours?
My number one vehicle is a vehicle that I have mastered the art of piloting. I am not the holder of a driving license in real life, but in the fictional world, I am absolute master driver of a Mario Kart.
Right.
Now, I've tested this out in real life by driving a go-kart. Rubbish at it. Absolutely rubbish. Far too scared to go fast. And I would like to replace the wheel with a D-pad. But a Mario Kart, probably... I mean, the 1992 original Super Mario Kart, I'm very good at that. And those are good little compact karts. Probably only just about big enough to hold a giant gorilla. But a fine size for a plumber. And they've changed a lot over the years. You get lots of other different karts. You play Mario Kart now, you can drive all sorts of different vehicles. But I still probably go for a basic wireframe go-kart style one. But I had to have a Mario Kart as my number one because it's the thing I've spent most time driving and piloting in all of my life. I mean, through, I don't know, 7, 8 versions of the game, I can drive the hell out of a Mario Kart. And while I don't particularly enjoy it aesthetically, the actual kart, I know where I am with it. If I walked into fictional land tomorrow and had to get from A to B, I'd be like, if you got a Mario Kart I can drive, yes sir. What color would you like? I was like, whatever matches the color of my outfit, obviously. And then I would get in that and I would go to where I needed to go. As long as I didn't hit any banana skins or get hit by any shells from turtles, I'd be fine, And that's the thing. It's like, when you have like car nightmares where you have to drive a car. I could never have a Mario Kart nightmare. It just wouldn't happen, I'd be in the dream and I'd be like, we've got to get to hospital and you're the only one with legs, so you'll have to drive. And I'd be like, yeah, it's some Mario Karts, I'm fine. No, just get them to hospital. Although if it was, I need to take somebody else, it'd probably have to be like a larger Mario Kart, like in Mario Kart Double Dash, where it could hold 2 players. But basically, that's the fictional driving I like. Yeah, I could drive a real car so well if it was more like a Mario Kart. And my kids like playing Mario Kart now. They're rubbish. They're rubbish at it. And my eldest keeps saying, I think I could probably beat you at Mario Kart now. I'm like, no, you can't. Oh, let's have a race to see. I'm like, don't need to. There's no way. Like, I'm not gonna lie to them about Mario Kart. I'm very supportive to them about most things, but I'm like, no, no chance, no chance.
I love it as a game. You know, I'm not a computer game person. I think Mario Kart, I would say, is the zenith of computer games. I don't think they've really ever got better. I think it's sort of perfect as well. I'm also saying that when I got to the point where I could be quite good at it. Like it's not something, you know. I don't think of myself as being particularly good at computer games, but I was all right at Mario Kart. I loved it. I love those levels where you've got the little shortcut, and even though sometimes it'd take me longer, I always felt like I have to try and do the shortcut and cut across a little bridge with no borders or something, even though I'd risk falling off and then coming last. But I love Mario Kart. I think it's a great number one. Big fan of the game. Played Billy Hines at Mario Kart recently with one of the modern ones. Haven't played it in years, and was still occasionally beating Billy Hines, which he was going, this feels like you shouldn't be able to beat me at this. I was like going, it's just one of them things that, like, as soon as you get used to it again, you go, oh, and I can do this.
It's one of my favorite quotes. I think it's an unattributed online quote. Nobody knows who made the original point, but the system in Mario Kart, whoever is doing the best gets the least useful power-ups, and whoever's in last place gets the most effective power-ups, right? Is the system that should be used in life to redistribute resources and wealth and opportunity, right? That's the ultimate beauty of Mario Kart, is it has that redistribution of luck, if you will. So people who are just pure skill based, they don't like it because they're like, if I'm the best, I should win every time because I'm the best, right? And no, Mario Kart's great because my kid could hit me with a blue shell. They're not going to hit me with a green shell, but they can hit me with a blue shell or a red shell. And so that will happen, you know, and they'll be in front of me for a bit, you know. That's the best thing about it. You can hand someone a controller and be like, here you go. You've never played before.
That is why it's good. It's also good because you can play that thing and you'll always have that opportunity to get back ahead. Yeah. Whereas if you're way behind, games like that stop being fun.
Yeah.
It's like, it's pointless.
And real life driving stops being fun.
Yeah.
Just driving should be more like Mario Kart. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's my TED talk.
Should you better throw things at cars in front or lay traps on?
I mean, yeah. If they just spin on the spot, that's fine. Nobody hurt. Or like you just get some stars around your head and you're like, ooh, you know. And there's like, you know, Lakita will pick you up off the side of the road and pop you back in the middle.
Yeah.
That's the fictional vehicular homicide that I want in a Mario Kart. So yeah, I just had to pick that number one. Like I said, I'd rather go on an adventure in a flying ship, but just for my regular, you know, my commute to work, Mario Kart.
I think that's a great number one. I think you've nailed that. And yeah, you had a bunch that I never even thought of. So it's a good list. Good list. A lot of variety.
I don't have any real spaceships on mine because I think I just don't get much past Star Wars. So we'll have to do a Star Wars vehicles at some point.
Any other honourable mentions?
Yeah,
fictional vehicles?
Yeah. I mean, we mentioned it a couple of times, but Kit, Night Industries 3000 from Knight Rider was cool, and the fact that it had such a slightly sleazy, suave voice for a you know, machine learning car was kind of nice but weird.
Yes, it was weird. Yeah,
and he ended up being Mr. Feeney on what was that show called?
Yes, it was. Boy Meets World.
Boy Meets World. Yeah. It was odd
because that's the guy, right?
You'd never seen him, but then you heard the voice and you were like, "Oh, that's totally him." A good one that I wanted to get in there but wasn't quite is Howl's moving castle,
Mm-hmm.
similar to a flying ship. I'm like, a moving castle? That's cool.
Yeah.
It's a castle that
Yeah.
walks along on kind of mechanical chicken legs.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's some luxury living. I mean, I know castles can be a bit cold and drafty, but you know,
Mm-hmm.
you do the interior nicely. A moving castle is a good vehicle. Hard to park.
In that Studio Ghibli world, you've got the cat bus.
Yeah,
from My Neighbor Totoro.
bit scary to get into sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Something I wondered if it come up on your list. I know your kids are a fan. Thomas the Tank Engine.
I mean, not Thomas himself, I don't think.
Right.
If I was going to have one.
Yeah, who would you pick if you had to pick one of the trains?
Percy, maybe.
Maybe Percy. Okay.
Although there's a rail Zeppelin. I forgot what it's called, but it's German, and it's based on a real life rail Zeppelin, which was like a helium filled Zeppelin on rails with a propeller on the back.
Oh, nice.
Was it helium filled? I don't know, but it looks like a Zeppelin, but it's got a propeller on the back, but it goes on a track. It was like a prototype thing, but it was they had to stop it with like a elastic band at the stations, and
it feels like there's too much stuff. Like,
yeah,
it's on rails, it's got propellers, and it's a Zeppelin. It's like, how much stuff do you need?
It was a bit
Pick one.
A lot of stuff. Tron bikes, they're quite cool.
Yeah, what they light cycles.
Yeah,
they're pretty good. The one I like from a series I've barely ever seen is the Mach 5 from Speed Racer.
Oh yeah,
that nice kind of thing. Car. That's a nice looking car. I'm fond of the Mystery Machine from Scooby Doo.
Yeah, it's quite similar to the ATeam van if you painted it differently.
Yeah, you could.
Very different.
Maybe we should have a word with those guys in Hampstead. They could get one of them going as well.
Mystery van, Mystery Machine, luxury hire. Yeah, for executives.
The Nautilus is the big, that's Captain Nemo's one. It feels though there isn't a definitive like screen version that you could go. I quite like all of them do that kind of slightly kind of metallic iron based and I quite like that as a sort of bit of aesthetic. I'm quite fond of that. But it's difficult to sort of narrow it down, I think.
I put the bikes from Akira. I used to be quite into them. I've probably grown out of them now, but I really like them, back in the day.
Yeah.
The kids have nominated a Nimbus 3000 broomstick from Harry Potter. Now that's one where I was like, is that a vehicle? Is a broomstick a vehicle?
I think so. I think you could probably count that as a vehicle. Yeah.
I don't think it comes under wearable tech. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. The Green Hornet as the Black Beauty car, which again is a bit more of a boxy sort of 50s type car, but quite pleasing. Wonder Woman's Invisible Plane, which is always
I put
amusing.
that down. That's funny because it's like, how am I going to get all these other people somewhere and they can't fly? And normally what people do is they're like, I can make you fly magically, or I can hold on to you and fly at you. But with the invisible plane, it's like, you're all in an invisible plane now. Are we? Yeah. Let's fly.
Yeah. And always funny with the idea that the plane's invisible, but you would just be able to see a woman sat down flying through the sky.
Yeah.
It's always an amusing idea.
It offers no cloak itself. It's just itself is invisible. Yeah, ridiculous.
In the new Dune film, the design they've got of there, which are the ornithopters, which is basically, but they're like a real thing. They're like a real thing with a flapping thing. But that kind of, when you see them, you go, it's a nice looking flying machine.
Yeah.
With flappy wings.
I haven't seen the new one, but I like the concept. I put down Airwolf, but it's actually rubbish. Airwolf's just a helicopter.
Yeah.
With a name.
Yeah. I think, I don't know what his thing was. Bulletproof, maybe? Had guns and stuff, right?
Yeah, but that was like a helicopter that you could get. Do you know what I mean? Just painted different. I mean, the Batwing, Batman's flying flying machines over the years. I like the more that they are just his logo, the better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's better.
When they're like a plausible-ish sort of flying jet thing, it's like, nah, that's rubbish. But when it's his logo but flying, that's good.
Yeah, that's fun. That's what Bruce Wayne should be spending his money on.
Exactly.
And wasting his time on some of this stuff.
He would just make it his logo massive. And I quite like the Fantastic Car from the Fantastic Four, which is a flying tin of sardines. Would you say that's a good description of it?
Yeah, yeah.
Just a rectangle.
Do you know what though? It's one of those things which technically it is not. It is just a thing people you can just stand in it, right?
Yeah.
You just basically like get into this thing that flies around.
Yeah.
But it is always there's still something about it which is like, oh, that's pretty good though.
It's probably the worst design of a flying machine ever.
Maybe, but I do like it. I
think it's a dishonorable mention, but I do like it too. But it's rubbish.
I like in that Jack Kirby world. I like the Shield helicarrier with all the little propellers and things, and that huge kind of floating spaceship that carries all the other spaceships. I quite like that idea. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
My sister-in-law said before we start recording this, Aladdin's magic carpet, and I was like, I guess that's a vehicle.
I guess it's a vehicle.
Yes, it is a vehicle. And my partner said the giant glass elevator or whatever it's called from Willy Wonka 2. And I don't remember that well enough. But I was like, it can only go up and down. But she said, no, it can go anywhere. So I was like, okay, that's quite good.
That is good. On that kind of thinking, what was I going to say?
Surely you were going to say about Herbie.
Herbie, yeah. Well, they've got all the sort of film cars: Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Herbie, Christine from the Stephen King, John Carpenter film. The car that comes alive, little 50s car comes alive and then kills people.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Cars that come alive in films. You've got, famously, I guess, in the film Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, Priscilla is the bus that they drive.
Yep.
So they're kind of more iconic movie ones. There's some that, I guess by that thing you can have the Spice Girls bus from Spice World, the movie. But we're getting into vehicles that aren't that good. I've got some.
Is that got a massive Union Jack on it?
Yes, it does. It does, I think.
Yeah, I'm not. It's not. We've already done.
Well, that's it. But I was going to say, I think there are some not great fictional vehicles.
I'd go for a double-decker bus with the flag of the Seychelles on it. That would be a good one for me. Be a good one for me.
Also, you've got in the wacky races, the ones we didn't mention, just in case you said them, were Dusty and Muttley's Mean Machine.
Yep.
Penelope Pitstop's Compact Pussycat. The great name, the Slag Brothers. Do you remember the Slag Brothers?
Wasn't that in Viz?
The Slag Brothers were they're basically prototype Captain Cavemen.
Yeah.
And they drive the Bouldermobile. There's Lazy Luke and Blubber Bear. And they drive the Arkansas Chuggabug, and they're basically like hillbillies, and they have like an engine that's basically like blowing up. And one is a bear. It's basically a hillbilly who's like lazily sleeping with like a hat over his front, and a bear who does all the hard work, and is basically just got this sort of like.
They're my favourite. I'm having them.
Professor Pat Pending, who has the converter car, who's a scientist, and it has the one where it's like part plane, part car. Sergeant Blast and Private Meekley, the Army Surplus Special, which is just a tank, really. It's not great. The Anthill Mob's Bulletproof Bomb.
Yeah, that's good.
That's good. Rufus Roughcut and Sawtooth, and they're the kind of lumberjack ones. So they're the ones where the wheels are like circular saws. And the Red Max in the Crimson Hay Baler, and Peter Perfect in the Turbo Terrific. But they're all good cars.
They're all good.
They're all smart cars.
Also, the Pink Panther car. That's quite a good car.
Yeah. That is good. Let's go through my list one more time. Make sure I've done all my.
What one's quite funny is we were talking about these 80s ones like the ATeam van, Kit, and Airwolf or whatever, right? One of them is Ecto One from Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
which is like a classic, and I had the toy of that and everything, right? But it's such a odd looking car, and it's just like a 1970s.
Is it an old ambulance? Is it meant to be or
like
something?
like an old ambulance, weird 1970s American vehicle that's just like they've done a bit of a Batmobile on it and souped it up a bit, but it's basically just such an odd car. And I just remember even as a kid wanting the toy, getting the toy, and being like, I love this toy. It's an odd looking car. Like
it is. It is. I think it certainly it crossed my mind to do that, and I didn't feel it could make my list. Yeah. The Nostromo in Alien's good as that kind of weird shaped, almost like horseshoe shaped. I quite like.
The horseshoe shaped. I think it was being like just like a sort of factory building, like a sort of big industrial building that's floating in space. Is that something else?
Am I thinking of the right thing?
I don't know.
I don't know. I know the thing I'm thinking of. Maybe I got it wrong. And Flintstones cars, I guess. Where you use your feet.
No. You're using your feet.
Look at that.
It's just something you're carrying while you're walking along. It's not a vehicle.
But I don't know. But I feel that that's something I wanted to have a go on. I want to have a go on a Flintstones car.
It's the same principle as like those little toy cars, like little tykes.
Yeah.
Is that what you want to drive?
Yeah.
Little tykes.
Yeah. With the boulder wheels. Wheels. I also really like the if you can call this a vehicle, sort of is, in the George Powell movie of the Time Machine, where he's got all the dials and things. I really like that with the big wheel on the back that spins.
Oh yeah,
I think that's a really good. And also those things that I assumed were fictional as a kid, like on Gentle Ben, those kind of
the
things that travel on
things.
swamps.
Yeah, those things.
Little mini hovercraft, but they're actually real things, aren't they?
Yeah,
they do exist. But as a kid, I was like, oh yeah, that's a made up thing.
There's a great. Herc would say this. There's a great rap video. I can't remember which song it is, but Special Ed, the rapper called Special Ed, who did a great song, I Got It Made. But it's not I Got It Made. It's one of his other songs, like I Am the Magnificent or something like that. And it has a video of him just like going around, getting up to scrapes in one of those hovercrafty things, which is like he's done the same thing. And he's gone that thing on Gentle Ben is real. Let's have that in my video. And they've gone, no, you can't have that. It's like 1989. It's not real. It is. Look, this place does hire of it. Look, executive transport. Gentle Ben, executive transport. You can hire them in New Jersey.
If they had those, they'd be onto something. If in Hampstead you could have a go on one of them.
West Hampstead.
I'd absolutely
get onto the Union Canal and just be like, love it.
Steer up, going sideways on it, flying along. Yeah. That'd be amazing. A car that wouldn't make my top fives. I'm not really into it, but I think a lot of people assume I am.
Yeah, I know what this is going to be.
Don't care. Do you know what it is?
The DeLorean.
The DeLorean. Don't care. Not fast. It's fine. I like the doors open at the side. That's the best thing about it.
Yeah, it's a clunky,
but I don't care.
Clunky looking car.
Don't care. Not bothered. I like Back to the Future. Not bothered about the car.
You love Back to the Future, but you don't love the car.
Not bothered. Don't really. It's like it's fine. I guess you like that kind of thing. I don't know. It's not really.
Do you prefer the train in Back to the Future?
I do. I way prefer the train. Absolutely love the train. Big fan of the train. I like the souped up train at the end as well.
I like that. When he comes back, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Much more into it. The train. I think that's too like. I don't know. I think it's too kind of. I guess it's just that the 80s stuff. I guess isn't really my bag. I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind, But the best thing about that DeLorean, the only thing that's like, and even as a kid, I went, "Wow, the doors open a different way." That was the whole thing of it for me. I was like, I like it. Doors open differently than on a normal car.
I mean, it time travels. I mean, it time travels. That's the big thing.
I guess
that's the big thing.
Yeah, I would have it in order to time travel. It would be like for me. It'd be like it's like how's that DeLorean time machine? I'll be like, it gets me from A to B,
Yeah.
or from
B to A.
like Z to Q.
It gets me from AD to BC.
Nice. Absolutely nailed it. That's the
That's the
one.
joke you were reaching for, Mr.
Yeah,
Comedian.
it was. It was. It was. I'm out of practice. Out of practice. It's been so long since I've been funny. But yeah, that was a good one. Nailed it. You're a DeLorean person?
No, I like the going doors just like you. I think I go for that, but I'd
Yeah.
rather them on. And this is the thing with real cars, like you has to be a pretty out there car to impress me. So like I always do this thing is like if I could have like a Lamborghini, like an absolutely nutty Italian supercar,
Yeah.
I'd be like, yeah, I can see the point in getting a driving license. But you get a driving license and you drive this like incredibly boring, rubbish, practical car made of which is all plastic and just looks boring. Whereas if I was like a billionaire West Londoner kid growing up, I'd be like totally getting a driving license as soon as I'm 17 because I can drive a Lamborghini and I can get it like wrapped in like holographic orange chrome with my name on the side, that kind of thing. Of course, I understand you, billionaire kid. You're going to crash it and it's going to be daft, but I understand it.
Yeah, I think if I could drive a car, I'd want something that has like lots of space in the back that I can put things in and take it places.
That's the only thing because we have a car that I don't drive, but it's got a big boot, and that's what I'm into. I'm just like, it's got a big boot. It's great.
Yeah,
it's better than lugging things on the bus. That's my point of reference.
Me too. That's what I'd want in a car.
Let us know your favorite fictional vehicles. Don't let us know your favorite real vehicles. Unless it's those hovercraft things, because they're cool.
Yeah, they're the only ones. They're acceptable.
They've got a proper name. I forgot what it is. Anyway, those are cool. Did you ever go on hovercraft to France?
Yeah,
the big ones. Disappointing, right? Because they only have tiny windows and it's all spraying water, so you can't really sort of.
But also on the way back, I remember it was good because it took 35 minutes, which was a thing that was very exciting. It was fine on the way there. On the way back, my main memory of it is being sick for 35 minutes into a sick bag as we're in these choppy waters of this thing where you do realize you are just on a thing where you're basically just like jumping up and down on waves, bouncing along, and it was too much for little me. And I was or whatever fancy lunch we'd had in Calais at some whatever little bistro place was back up.
Had you had du pain, du vin, du boursin? Is that what you'd had?
No, I didn't have any. I certainly didn't have any vin. I don't think. Or maybe actually. In France, I might have been given a soupçon of a vin.
A van, a small van.
A soupçon of vin.
Soupçon of vin.
Yeah. Might have been just when in Calais.
When in Calais.
Maybe I had a bit of that.
Let us know your top 5 fictional vehicles. Let us know what we should do next. We're going to do more because we've been slacking off. We haven't slacking off, we've been busy. But I'm quite keen to do some things.
Yeah.
Someone tell us what letter of the alphabet we should do next as well, because otherwise we're picking them, which I think like skews it too much towards letters we like things of.
Yeah. Pick some letters you like.
Yeah, pick an obscure letter.
Yeah.
Don't pick Q.
And don't put one with like an umlaut on it.
Don't pick Q or X. One with an umlaut on. That's interesting.
Yeah.
No, don't do that.
Thank you to Fraser and Dan of the Silence podcast who said some nice things about us. That was very nice. And thanks to anyone who's been saying nice things about us and telling people to listen and whatnot. That's very helpful. And
lovely.
And if you see us mentioning these episodes on social media, please give it a like. A retweet is always best. But something like that helps spread the word. If you like it, share it with someone because they might like it too. That's how it works, right?
That's how it works.
And comment and tell us your favorite fictional vehicles.
Yeah, and I think do let us know whether they're for you're getting from A to B vehicle or whether you want them for going on an adventure, because I think they're sort of 2 separate categories of vehicles. Thunderbird II, flying ship. I'm going to pick up friends. We're going to go around the place.
I like that you're doing that with Thunderbird II. That feels extravagant to pick up friends.
Oh yeah.
Like take them to what, Rowan's?
Yeah,
take them to
Rowan's. It's going to take them to Rowan's to go pin bowling. You can park in the park. There's loads of space. We can touch down in Finsbury Park. I don't need to get Thunderbird 2 to Rowan's. I live around the corner. You mean what? Go around London picking people up?
Oh, right, okay.
Go to Norfolk.
Okay.
Go to,
Well, it goes as far as Norfolk, does it?
I don't know what they get miles per gallon fuel wise.
Right.
I could, they're pretty electric now.
Yeah, and also what's good is I imagine somewhere on the internet someone has worked out the miles per gallon of the various Thunderbird vehicles.
Almost.
So it's great that we live in an age when someone will have worked that out.
Yeah,
and
I'm not going to go and Google it.
Well done, that, and I will specify. Well done, that man.
Yeah. Well done, those men.
Who worked that out. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Ossie.
Thank you, Nat.
I think that's it, right?
I think that's
Nailed
it. Unless you want to hang on a bit longer.
We can do that afterwards.
No. See you later. Cheers.
See you. Bye.
Bye.